Good morning, First Christian Church. Hebrews chapter 11 begins by reminding us that faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Thus, faith has rightly been described as trusting in something that you cannot explicitly prove. Hebrews chapter 11 continues on as a sort of hall of fame that highlights biblical figures who are known for their acts of faith. Reading through the verses reveals a who's who of Old Testament characters: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, David, Samuel, and the prophets, and the list goes on. But there's one name that stands out as different. One individual who was neither a prophet, nor a king, nor a patriarch. One woman whose act of faith resulted not in a military victory, but rather the Bible simply says that because of her faith, she didn't die. Here's what Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 31 says. By faith, Rahab the prostitute did not perish with those who were disobedient, because she had given a friendly welcome to the spies. Charles Spurgeon remarked that Rahab's faith was a, quote, saving faith, a singular faith, a stable faith, a self-denying faith, and a sympathizing faith. To that list, I would add that hers was also an instructive faith, and that we might learn much from her actions. God had never spoken to her as he spoke to Abram. He never appeared to her in flaming shrubbery like he did to Moses. She had no godly parents or priestly influence like Samuel had. She had simply heard the reports of what God had done on behalf of her enemies. And in faith, she acted decisively and boldly, and by doing so, she saved herself and her family. Compared to Rahab, we have a tremendous advantage. We have, as Hebrews 12:1 says, a great cloud of witnesses who testify to who God is and to what he has done. And more importantly, we have the Bible, God's holy, inspired word. Ultimately, as Romans 10:17 tells us, that's where faith comes from. So my prayer and my challenge for us today is that as we read the opening chapters of Joshua, as we hear God's words of comfort and encouragement to the Israelites, and see Rahab disregard the cost and live out her faith, my hope is that our faith might be strengthened and increased. That during these days of doubt and fear, that we would live and act by faith. As Hebrews 11:6 tells us, without faith it is impossible to please God. And there is nothing more pleasing to God than for people to place their faith in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, and to receive the gift of salvation, that is the gift of knowing God. Just as Rahab did not perish because of her faith, so too are we saved by our faith in what Jesus did. By faith we are reconciled to God and walk with him. And by faith we are able to live in peace, even in these rather chaotic and turbulent times. May God bless you, and may God increase your faith even today.